Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Sit Down with Shibby. Today I am joined by David Szajnuk, aka Hotline League's biggest fan, aka the North American simp himself, the 100 Thieves fanboy, fangirl, whatever you want to call it, but most commonly and most famously, obviously known as just David Szajnuk. You don't actually have a username or screen name or anything. You just let your full name go out there, right? Is there a reason?
I have never been able to stick to a name. That even goes back to the AIM days for those that used to have it. I was Golfmaster 910, Slimstick 97. Like the names just went all across the board. I was like, you know what? I can't pick anything, so I'm just gonna go with my name. It's already weird enough. Might as well.
I mean, it's a pretty solid username. Obviously, your Twitter is D Szajnuk, which I mean, they for anybody that actually follows league content, watches stuff, they'll know that you're in the space and everything like that. For people that don't know who you are for whatever reason, David Szajnuk, who are you? What do you do? What's up?
I am a finance guy out of New York City that somehow got some sort of following for loving video games and wanting to talk about esports. That'd be the best summary of it that I would give. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none.
Perfect. We'll talk about your following because I would say a lot of people actually know you from TikTok. That's where you have one of your biggest followings. I last I checked, I think it was like up to 30,000, 35,000. Are you at 40K now?
44.5K.
44.5. Yeah. So you've got a massive following on TikTok. What do you attribute that to? Like, is it just you are just constantly grinding out videos, like league content? I would say is pretty sparse on TikTok. A lot of it is more exciting gameplay focused, whereas yours is very, very reactionary or informational. You go over a bunch of different topics, right? PBE changes, LCS, MSI, esports. Like, what would you attribute your success on TikTok to?
Just being able to talk about anything and willing to talk about anything, even if I make a complete fool of myself at times on topics that I don't know, I've never shied away from the conversation. Back in 2020, whenever COVID hit, actually back it up a little bit. I grew up going to bars to watch sports. That then applied to esports as well. Whenever I moved to New York, we'd go to bars, watch LCS. We went to a bar in Koreatown at 4 a.m. to watch the 2018 finals between Fnatic and Invictus Gaming. And there were like 25 of us. Everybody was a little bit tired because the bar called last call right before game one hit. I wish we had more drinks to get us through how bad of a series it ended up being. But it was just great to watch League and talk about it with people and, talk crap on players, just borrow a little bit and have fun with it. COVID hit, all of that went away. And I would talk to people on Twitter, on Discord, but it doesn't fill that hole that existed of just being able to talk about it with people. And I found myself browsing TikTok, enjoying the trends, and just seeing more and more people talk on there. Just having casual conversations, not even just podcasts. Like some people, would upload their podcast and then clip it to TikTok. But it was a lot of people just having natural conversations. It's like, okay, I can do that. So I uploaded one video. It got like 50 views. It was like, okay, I'll upload another one, see what happens. And then that one got like 60 and a comment. And the comment led to a conversation that I really enjoyed. And I was like, you know what? I can keep doing this. So I said for 1 month, I'm going to upload 2 videos a day, every day, starting in November 2020. I was like, we'll see how this goes. If it goes well, then great. It's not that much of a time commitment. I learned to edit really quickly on TikTok without much going on. And a friend of mine suggested midway through that month, we don't know. There's a few of us that don't know anything about League, but just follow you for the sake of being friends with you. Can you explain to us what League is? I was like, okay, fair. I do that at the bar all the time. So I'll make a League 101 series and go through the major things that you need to know, the champions, etc. I'm gold, so don't expect me to give you any high level stuff. But in the same way that, my friends might have introduced me to League of Legends, maybe I'll introduce them. And that series took off and did incredibly well.
Yeah.
And was getting on average about 10 to 20,000 views per video in its prime. Unfortunately, there's only so much you can explain to people at a beginner level, and quite honestly, by the end of the series, it became kind of not a drag. It's not that I didn't enjoy doing it, but it just felt formulaic and didn't really feel like much of anything. So I was already doing, of my 14 videos a week, only 3 of them were the League 101, and 9 or the 11 others were just talking in general. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just keep doing this. So it's been 2 years straight now, or no, coming up on 3 years this November, of 2 videos a day every day, and I've never missed.
Do you think there is a market in TikTok that specifically Riot's League of Legends division kind of underutilizes? Because Valorant does numbers on TikTok, right? I would even say TFT for sometimes does like really good numbers because of the content and how short form it can be. Do you think that Riot isn't utilizing League stuff on TikTok? They're not trying to like, you know, get that audience, because that's where everybody is, right? That's where all the Valorant players are. That's where all the new, in theory, League players would be on TikTok. Do you think that Riot isn't maybe giving it their all or putting a lot of weight behind maybe their TikTok content strategy and stuff like that?
I don't think they have to. I think the nature of social media is that people will go where they find things interesting, and to the platforms that they find give them the most creative routes to express themselves. And Riot honestly doesn't do all that much on TikTok with Valorant. It's just people that genuinely love the game and create amazing edits. I don't even play Valorant myself, and I'll sit here and watch the edits of them for an hour because it's incredible. The Moves, I think, is one of the first guys that put me onto it, and it's just incredible. And now he's doing work for like Fnatic. I saw on one of the videos, and it's like it's just pure passion. Like Riot can't force it. You can't force people to ultimately want to be on these platforms. If people aren't going to create League of Legends TikTok on or League of Legends content on TikTok, it's just because there's not enough people interested. Because clearly with Valorant, with Minecraft, with Fortnite, there's an abundance and people are more than happy to do it. And hell, Minecraft's even bled into other things where you have like the Reddit videos of somebody explaining like a Reddit story, and there's just a Minecraft parkour thing going on at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's great.
Let's rewind it a little bit. I want to understand how you actually got into League, because you seem like a very traditional sports guy, right? I might be profiling. I might be a little bit right. Pennsylvania. You might be a Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know, man.
My family owns season tickets to the Steelers.
Yeah. There you go. How did you actually end up, you know, into League, right? How did you get into the esports space? First the esports space, then talk to me about League.
The esports space, I'm shocked that I didn't get into it quicker. I've been playing video games since I was like 4. My dad and I played Hot Shots Golf on PlayStation 1 together. I played a game called Shining Heroes on like some PC.
Oh my god!
Like some, it was like some pack that had like Sonic, Shining Heroes, and like 5 other games, and it fascinated me as a kid. And I would just play it all the time on our crappy PC because that was the only thing that ever ran. But consoles were always the consistent thing. So eventually, my dad stopped playing video games with me as much. He got a little bit busier with work. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try a different game that everybody's talking about at the time, which was Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. So my mom and I went to GameStop. We bought an Xbox 360. The guy's like, you have to try COD 4. It's like, okay, I'll try it. I played through the campaign 37, 38 times, give or take, just playing it over and over and over again because it was so much fun before I realized that there's this little port on the back of the console that you could hook an Ethernet cord up to and go online and play, which blew my mind. And then all of a sudden, I'm up till 4 a.m. playing Michael Myers with random people that I've never met from California, from parts of Europe. Online multiplayer blew my mind. So I started playing, or from that point on, started getting into game battles, which is like the early days of esports.
Yes.
On Call of Duty and on console, where you used like the third-party system to organize matches, and it was fun. But that was just like I played game battles matches with friends for 6-7 years and still never followed esports at all. Like never followed the top teams, never anything else. We just did it for fun because we enjoyed the competition. After Black Ops 2, like the peak of Call of Duty, I still wasn't into esports at the time. I met my wife during that time, so I kind of took a break from video games and focused on real life. God love her, but man, do I wish I was there for the Black Ops 2 days. But afterwards, after I started playing video games a little bit more as we were like a year into our relationship, a friend of mine who I play Call of Duty with was like, hey, there's this Call of Duty tournament going on this weekend. We're not going to play, but we're going to hop in a party and just listen. Don't know if you want to join us. It's just me, my cousin, and a few other guys. I was like, sure. We hop in, and it was Optic versus Envy. And they're all like, oh, we're Optic gaming fans. I was like, I don't want to be an Optic. I don't want to jump on the ship with you guys. I'm gonna cheer for Envy because I watched creators like T Martin, Drifter, and a few others that were all like co-owners of Envy at the time.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And it was just so much fun to watch. And Envy happened to win that event. So it was great. It was a great start to watching esports. I was like, okay, I'll get into this more. And then the next game comes out and it's Advanced Warfare. And there's a bunch of roster moves within the Call of Duty scene. I'm learning about like the off season and how like the inner workings of the scene work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I find out that this kid named Scump, who unfortunately was on Optic, the team that all my friends were cheering for, grew up 5 minutes away from me. Literally 5 minutes down the road, I was friends with some of his friends or people that like knew him. And
back
like,
then
he went to a very big school. So like he had like 1,000 people in his graduating class. I had 200 in mine. And it was like, you knew people that went to his high school and were jealous of it. And I was like, okay, now I got to cheer for him because this kid's kind of cool, hometown guy. And I just fell in love. Watched Call of Duty for 4 or 5 years and played nothing but console games until the same people that I played COD with were like, hey, there's this game coming to Xbox called Smite. I know you're not going to know what it is, and you're going to be really confused when you try it the first time. But trust me, we're all getting beta keys. We're going to try it out, see how you like it. We go in. I play Cupid, a marksman ADC in that game for the first time. Yep.
Yeah.
And the first game, I was lost. Had no clue what I was doing. First time I'd ever seen a MOBA, played one.
Lanes,
like I knew
abilities.
Dude, I was so confused. You have no idea. I remember sitting in the party just asking them, why can't I just look at somebody and focus on killing them? Why do I have to worry about all this other stuff? I just want to go in and kill somebody. It's that simple. Like,
you were used to COD,
help
right?
my COD brain. Yeah, like feed my COD brain here.
Yeah.
And they're like, just trust me. Wait till play a few more games and see what you think. And it was like the second or third game, we had that team fight that every MOBA fan has had, where you have that moment where you get that kill that changes the tide of the fight.
You do something.
And then yeah. And it was like, hold up. This feels different. This feels really, really different. And I like this. So we grinded the shit. Or am I allowed to swear? Sorry,
yes,
I don't want to.
Yes. It's past 10 minutes on YouTube, so we're good.
We grinded the hell out of Smite. You had to have a level 30 account to play ranked. And this was about 2 weeks after we started playing it. But I was doing an internship in New Jersey at the time, working at a golf course. But I was living up in the bedrooms above the pro shop. So what I did was, it turns out you could actually play against bots and not play online, but get the experience that you needed to hit level 30 to play ranked. I would be working and every hour go upstairs and check on my Xbox because I set it up. I had a second controller that was already busted. I put a rubber band on it to have it so that the character just spun in circles the entire time.
Well, everybody else beat the bots.
Yeah, and I was just farming XP while I was working downstairs. And I go back up every hour, start a new game, let it go. In 2 days, I hit level 30 and we started playing ranked. And that just got me addicted immediately. Started playing MLG tournaments on Smite for that. I think I peaked either Platinum or Diamond in, I think Platinum in like their Summoner's Rift mode. And then they have an ARAM style thing that I think I peaked like high Diamond. So it was a blast. We finished like top 16 in our first tournament. I'm sitting there sweating after the top 24 or top 32 match, just like unbelievably hyped. as like, this is great. This is the peak of gaming. It's not going to get any better than this. It's like, come on, it doesn't get any better. And a friend told me, is like, no, it gets better. It's like, what do you mean it gets better? He's like, League of Legends. I was like, what is that? Come on, what is that?
Another MOBA, right? It's another MOBA.
He's like, it's a MOBA. He said, your crappy college laptop that is barely still working should still be able to run it. Let's give it a try. Why not? And I was like, nah, I'll hold off. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm really enjoying Smite. I'm just going to keep grinding this. Finally got bored one night at like 2 a.m. and was like, you know what? Screw it. Gonna try League of Legends. And there was a guy, or the champion Varus is very similar to Rama in Smite. And I was like, okay, I'll try this guy, see what it's like. Turns out last hitting minions in League of Legends is really important. Not as important in Smite. Didn't realize that at first. And the top-down POV really messed with me. But I understood like the basics of laning and what I was supposed to do, even if I couldn't get my hands to
your
agree.
Mechanics. Yeah.
But my mechanics were horrible. Like, having never played a PC game other than just like Shining Force way back when, I was bad. But I very quickly realized that there's a lot more depth to this game than what exists in Smite. And the other thing that annoyed me in Smite was that not a lot of people played ranked, at least on console. It was a majority casual fan base. The game does incredibly well, but it's not a very competitive game. The player base that plays competitive Smite is fairly small. So everybody said, okay, well, the peak of competitive MOBAs is League of Legends. About 3 weeks later, the League of Legends World Championships were going on. 2016 TSM. Broke my heart as I finally discovered esports, but I very quickly realized that this is it. This is this is what I really want to get involved in. And then 5 days later, a dragon comes down and it's like, yep, it's done. I'm
the show and everything like that. I feel like that's where a lot of people would like to kind of indicate that there was like a big peak moment, or not peak, but there was a golden era, peak age of League of Legends, right? It was like season 3 up until, like you said, maybe 2017 even. I would say even some would say 2018. That's where it was like a very big, like, quote unquote golden age. And you kind of came around 2016. What have you as a fan noticed, and just as a content creator as well within League, kind of like the shift from back then up until now? Like, it feels like there are less streamers, right? Like pro players. Well, I've been a fan for a very long time. MLG, Anaheim, all that stuff, right? Like 2013, 2012. There used to be a big congregate of pro players that also streamed, right? Like Bjergsen, Doublelift, Scara, I'm a Cutie Pie, Aframo. Like, these guys used to consistently top the charts in Twitch, right? There's been a massive shift now to like where there's not that many pro players streaming. League is quote unquote dying. What have you noticed, kind of as somebody that's been in the scene now for 7 years? Let's say we're in 2023, creating content, covering League, obviously media coverage. What have you noticed as the shift? Like, what happened in your mind?
Being completely honest, I've never cared about Twitch. I don't watch League on Twitch. I've always watched it on YouTube. I watch no streamers, no players. That's never been my route. I've always been a team guy. We grew up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was a big Minnesota Vikings fan. Golf, you had to cheer for Tiger Woods, but even then, it's like you pick one player and that's your team that you follow event after event. Like, that's always been my thing. So I was an Optic Gaming fan for a long time. Didn't really have a team that kind of got me into it. But like, when I committed to watching League consistently was 2018, whenever Optic came in with franchising. My perspective on things is going to be a lot different than most, given that I'm not involved in the Twitch scene and I don't watch that content. The biggest shift for me was with YouTube and watching the documentaries with TSM Legends back in 2016 and seeing all of these people care about players, about teams and everything there. And 2018 came, and I still have a document actually that tracked the viewership data for every single team's docuseries.
Yes.
From 2018 to 2020. It actually got me a conversation with the CEO of Optic at the time. and you could just see the numbers like steadily decline.
The interest, right? Yeah.
It was bad, like really bad. And I, as a fan of teams, I was still watching it, even though everybody else was leaving, and everybody was like, "Oh, the personalities aren't as interesting and all this." And it's like, I'll be honest with you, I don't understand where you're coming from, and I don't think I ever will because I'm just not a players guy. So the only thing that I saw was just teams stop creating content out of nowhere. And it was like, why? Like, why are you not doing? I get the viewers are dwindling, but why are you not adapting your content to change with the times? Like, obviously, the things that worked for you in 2016 are not going to work for you in 2019. It's a different era. Monetization changed. Like, everything changed around it. So why are you still doing the same stuff? And when it came to content creators, I'd watch Tyler One on occasion for YouTube VODs, Double It for YouTube VODs. But everybody would talk about the streaming changes, and it's like I don't have a good answer for you. Like, as weird as it is to say, I just don't care.
So let's switch the conversation to YouTube content then, right? Because there used to be, like you said, a big thing on like docuseries, right? Obviously, there's a lot of big content creators that have podcasts, interviews, right? Travis does it, Thorin does it, right? There's a lot of like people that do a lot of content centered and based around League, but it feels like that I would say audience is shrinking, right? Like there's not that many people, right? You obviously do your podcast, you do the reactionary content, you do the TikTok, the Twitter, you pump out content like a madman. But I would say you're probably a pretty rare and unique person in that regard. Why do you think there just isn't a boon for content creators, right? A lot of the content that you see on YouTube is like either jungle guides, reactionary content, or it's like gameplay content. Why do you think there isn't an esports? There's like a set of esports content creators that like really thrive within the League of Legends scene.
Because I think everybody's in it for the money, ultimately. Like, I think a lot of content creation, especially on YouTube, is just about how do I monetize and make the most out of everything. It's why teams stopped putting as much out there because they couldn't get spot. Sorry, my dog's going to bark occasionally in the background.
It's fine. That's fine.
Teams stopped putting out as much content because they weren't getting as many views and they couldn't monetize it, so they didn't care. Players just started focusing more on trying to win, when in reality North America is just, it's not going to happen on the international stage. So like I never understood that angle of things. So people just started focusing on the things that could bring them what seemed like the most amount of money to me, at least from my eyes. And it lost a lot of passion. And the people that you saw that were passionate about it weren't on the esports side. They were on the casual side. And they're the same people that, like, when they upload a video over the last 2 years of I'm quitting League of Legends, which there have been, 10 or 12 of those videos, they all pop off. And it's like, those are the only people that I truly believe, like, it was very blatantly clear in their content that they loved League of Legends and loved everything around it. And I think that's gone missing to a certain extent. There are still people that genuinely love League of Legends on the esports side. I'm sure, like, there are people that are passionate about it, but I haven't seen anybody break through and be able to make content that you're clearly passionate about League, but also you make it entertaining. Let's be honest, interviews are only entertaining for so long. There's only so many interviews that you can watch. There's only so many times you can watch a game of League of Legends be played, unless you truly care about the person underneath. And even then, like, that's the whole point of like actually watching the LCS. The supplemental content, we don't need more gameplay. We need stuff besides that to get to know you as a person, whether that's podcast. Like, Optic will always be my golden standard of content. I think they do content around you, or content for Call of Duty and YouTube, incredibly well. And one of their things is just like, you have the players who do make content and appear on the Optic stuff, but you also have people within the org that very clearly care. And you can live as a fan through them as they talk about it. And they give these like experiences both within the gaming industry, and they talk about Call of Duty,
And
the
the
game, and the
stories.
esports. Yeah, and it's like you have this person to live through to a certain extent. It's a reason why I think co-streaming is popping off right now, because that same thing is applicable to Twitch and watching the games live. But it runs deeper than that. What I've never understood is like why Cloud9, for example, probably the biggest team in the LCS right now, why are Sneaky and Meteos like not, I mean, I get they could probably do it on their own, but why is somebody within Cloud9 just not having a consistent podcast every week talking about it? Or at least something sponsored by the teams. It's just like I don't know. I haven't seen content around like League of Legends esports other than G-Bay's videos.
Yeah,
That
that's who I
truly,
was gonna reference, right? Somebody that's passionate, that cares about it, that puts a lot of work. He's like the de facto League of Legends documentary guy, right? I think
yeah,
everybody's kind of found their own niche, like at least the big hitters, right? Like G-Bay's the documentary guy. I would say Travis is more of like the casual, can talk to everybody kind of content creator. Then you have Thorin, who's like very, very on the other side, right? If Travis is on the left, Thorin is on the right, where he's like very brash, he's very harsh. He'll get players. He has this very, strong, opinionated, that kind of thing.
Thorin is very much like the Skip Bayless of esports, if we're being honest. Like that is the perfect comparison in my mind.
Yeah, Skip Bayless. I'm forgetting on his name. I'm forgetting the
Stephen A.
other.
Smith, Shannon Sharp.
He has his own series. Oh my god, I'm blanking out right now. He's another white guy, and he has
Mike Green, Mike Golick.
Oh, come on. It's gonna escape me.
Oh, Colin Cowherd.
Colin Cowherd, right? That's where I would say he's more apt with Cowherd, right? You can draw all the comparisons you want, I guess, in that aspect. But when you talked about kind of the podcast stuff centered around teams, right? So I think somebody that you're pretty much friends with, that you've interacted with, the 100 Thieves Talk podcast, those guys, right? They obviously recently halted their stuff. So they tried it, right? They did it, but it just feels like there wasn't that big of an audience for them, right? Do you think that kind of content needs to be like, are you screaming like 100 Thieves? Why are you not picking these people up and guest starring players and stuff like that? Like, do you think that's where orgs are doing it wrong, where they're not starting their own content like Optic, where they do like the round table of like, sometimes it's Hector, it's like all these other people, right? Or why are they not picking up fan created podcast around their teams, right? Like, is that what you're like, what's happening? Like, is that where the I guess they're dropping the ball, not just on the Thieves, but other organizations as well?
The thing is, I think Jordan and Cole are a great example of this, where you can have a phenomenal product, but if you don't have the time to go beyond that, then it just is what it is. And I don't want to speak for them, but I mean, given the choice that they made to cut 100 Talk as life is getting more important, clearly, unless like 100 Thieves was coming in to offer them the same salary that they're making with their full-time jobs, they're not going to be able to take that leap of faith that a 19 or 20-year-old kid's going to be able to. And they have other responsibilities that, like, they can do the podcast and they can do Rec League, but they don't have the ability to do that other ancillary content, because, like, as much as we reference ESPN, the fact of the matter is Barstool is the biggest name in media and entertainment right now, bar none. And what do their names, the people that they signed to them, do well? It's not only just the podcast. They're also consistently posting to TikTok, to Instagram, to all the other platforms. Like, it's a social media machine that goes so far beyond just one thing and one platform. And I don't know any content creators in the LoL esports space right now that fully do that. Using Travis and G-Bay that we mentioned earlier, G-Bay makes phenomenal YouTube videos, but he's only active, really, from what I've seen, on YouTube. I don't see him engaging on TikTok content. On Twitter, he's vocal and obviously
he tweets. He tweets, but he's not a content tweet type of guy. He's like, and this is my thoughts.
Yeah, and like, I hate to say it, but you need to do more. And I don't want to credit myself as that person, because clearly I'm nowhere near their size, their figures, their anything else. But if there's one thing that I feel like I can say I confidently do, is I believe that I put out more content than most other people in League esports at the moment. And I feel like there will be people that will get bigger than me and should, and deservedly so, because they have the time to do so. If you're 18 or 19-year-old right now and you love League esports, put out 2 TikTok videos a day, put out a few YouTube videos a week, stream a little bit. If you have the ability to, do it, because I promise you there's a way to take off. Just make sure that you understand you need to have your unique voice, perspective, your own side of things. Mine is the business side. I understand sports and I understand business because that's my career. So I care about, 100 Thieves getting a partner like Subway and talking about what that means for the ecosystem and the bigger things like that. Like it for other people that might be dumb. You just want to talk about the game. That's fine, but find a unique way to do it and just max out content. Understand the landscape and know that unfortunately, you can't just pick one. You can't just do one anymore. If you want to get to that status to where, Nade Shot was in like 2013, 2014, and like get yourself those building blocks to eventually start stepping it up, you have to be on all those platforms. You look at what got all of the main content creators to where they are now. Just looking at 100 Thieves with Nade Shot and Courage. Nade Shot will be playing game battles or playing like their professional tournaments, record a YouTube video while streaming the entire thing and then tweeting out about it the entire time. Courage commentated on Call of Duty. Every tournament he was there casting. After the tournament was done, streaming on his own. That stream would then turn into a YouTube video, which could then clip to Twitter and go from there. Like, you have to be this fully fledged content machine, especially as more and more people enter the space and want to do it.
I want to talk about your content now, specifically, right? Because I wouldn't classify you as one kind of content creator. You do interview content, you do reaction content, you've got the crossover podcast, you also have like your own thoughts, right? Why the shotgun method? Why are you not, in your case, obviously you've kind of found your niche, like you said, the finance / esports guy, but why have you delved into so many different kinds of content? Is it just kind of like hey, I want to do this. I like this. Oh, actually, I want to do interviewing now. Actually, let me give you my thoughts. Let me do my reactions. Let me do this. Let me do that. Why such a shotgun method?
Starting with the interviewing is more or less a means to an end. More like, I would have no problem giving up my media spot with the LCS for somebody else that truly cares about journalism and wants to go that route. And I've made this very clear to both the press circles and on social media in general. I'm not a journalist. When I go into these interviews, I am interviewing as a content creator, not as somebody that's going to uphold journalistic integrity, that's digging for sources, digging for information. I'm just going there to talk, and that's it. Because ultimately, my angle on content is it. You might see it as a shotgun method, but for me, everything that I do is within the same niche of, I guess, just talking about it to a certain extent, making a few jokes here and there, skits, stuff like that. But for the most part, if I'm going to put out the amount of content that I need to be able to mass produce it in a way, or at least have it be easier to put out. And that to me is just simply talking. We went on a trip to Bora Bora last year to celebrate our 5-year wedding anniversary. I pumped out 37 videos for TikTok in 72 hours and just got all that done and had like 3 YouTube videos prepped on top of that.
While you're out, like, right? Scheduled upload, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and it's just like I went on a walk, threw on a playlist, and just the second a thought came down, wrote it down, talked about it for a minute. That's a video. And just kept doing it and doing it. Because for whatever reason, I don't know if it's ADHD or what it is, like I can think of a billion different videos and not videos, a billion different ideas and somehow find a way to tie them into League of Legends. We want to talk about the Taylor Swift Eras Tour right now and what she's doing in media and entertainment. I'll find a way to make it about League of Legends and tie it in some capacity, because I care a lot about pop culture. So it's like you can tie those bridges and lessons learned and just talk about it. So even though I'm putting out a lot of TikTok content, YouTube vlogs that I'm trying to model more after like the Casey Neistat style, people have said they love just when I'm walking around New York City and talking about
While
shit.
you're
It feels,
talking, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's how
for
I see
whatever.
you, right? In New York, when you do the prayers and like that's the content that you are kind of, I would say, known for, in my opinion.
It's like I can do that on a moment's notice. It just comes natural to me. I have no, like, I can talk to anybody, do anything. I've done videos where like I go down to Washington Square Park and just hold up a sign and just ask a question to people and talk to random people about random. And I enjoy it. That's always been fun to me. So even though there's a lot of content going out, it's all basically the same stuff in that it's talking about a relevant topic and how it can be applied to League of Legends, or if it is League of Legends stuff, how does that relate to things outside of League of Legends, and what examples can we take from it?
I want
It's
to
very
kind of
long-winded. I don't know if that answered the question.
No. It's I get where you're coming from. I understand why you do all this kinds of, like you said. In my view, and some other people's view, it's a shotgun method, but to you, it is a circle, right? It is a loop, right? It all feeds into each other. I do want to talk about some of your own opinions about LCS, esports, all that stuff. So recently, you've been a pretty huge advocate of LCS Roadshows, and really big advocate of like in-person esports events. Like that is a, talking to most people, and I also have this opinion as well, talking to a lot of people, in-person events, roadshows, this kind of stuff, this doesn't really seem to work as well as we would imagine. I would draw from another league that I used to watch. Overwatch League is an example of a league that tried to do regional based matches in different areas, and given the current ecosystem, given with how teams are pulling out and all that stuff, I'm not hesitant to label it as a failure. Overwatch League, in my opinion, is a failure with the model that they created. Obviously, you can learn from failure. Why do you think LCS Roadshows and LCS in-person events and watch parties and all that stuff, why do you think that would succeed as opposed to what we've seen from other models?
I want to push back heavily on the Overwatch League model because I don't think it failed.
You don't think it failed?
I think financially it was a failure. I think you tell people that we invested $50 million for a slot into this. Yes, it failed. If you remove that from the equation, you say that the New York Excelsior basically built a fan base from nothing to 150 people that will drop everything at a dime to be there at a match or a karaoke bar in New York City for any event that they go to via the 5 Deadly Venoms and the crowd that they had there. You can't tell me that's not a success. That's gaining a fan. That is building a fandom from nothing. It's unfortunate that the game is dying out. It's unfortunate that the expectations were that you would fill arenas. But the reality is it took the NFL 100 years to get to that point.
Agreed.
The
100%.
fact that you got 150 people in 2 years is incredible. I just think it's people's expectations, understandably, because of the venture capitalist money that went in, that made that an unfortunate reality where that's not good enough. Sure. But if you take that out, if you strip esports down to its bare minimum, you take out the venture capitalist money and you just start building local fandoms, you get 150 people at a bar that all order a beer and food because they want to eat and watch a game. That local business will invite you back every single week because you're providing economic value for them. Currently, our biggest problem with the LCS is monetizing fans. We have no ability for teams to get money outside of just apparel, and occasionally the LCS going on the road, twice a year in total, of which we're going to massive stadiums. I think it's important to just start locally. And whatever you have to do to reduce costs to make it these events that people will go to, like somebody pushed back and said, for the budget that you're expecting to have for even like 1,000-person theater, like it's still going to be a lot. And it's like, okay, well, we're losing our money already, and we're not growing fans. So if we're going to lose that same amount, or if that's in your budget to lose that same amount, I'd rather move it. Yeah, I'd rather
training facilities.
Yeah, I'd rather put it elsewhere. Like at the end of the day, like by all means, I want the players to be comfortable. I want the staff to have an office and everything else that they should have. Like 100 Thieves does a great job of monetizing their office. I think Cubby brought that up in the Raising NA podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's fans first. We're in entertainment. Despite it being in sports and esports and competition, it is entertainment first. The fans come before everything because they're the people that keep the lights on for you. And right now, I don't think we're doing a good enough job of catering to those fans and developing them in a nature that means more to North American fans and players. The online model and focusing on online viewership, in my opinion, is not working. I think you need to get in these communities and develop things at a grassroots level in order to have any sort of meaningful and cultural impact that will have long-standing effects for the league. I know that will cost us money. By all means, I do. I'm not naive to that, and I've been called out on that very heavily. But I don't see a world where you can grow League of Legends in North America without getting it in the hands or in front of more in-person eyes. I refuse to believe otherwise. Nobody's been able to provide a case for me as to why the online model will work. They talk about global viewership, and the LCS is even trying to put it at a time zone that works for Europe. Well, I'm sorry, we're not European here. We're American. I care about North American fans and Canadian fans.
Push back a little bit. So the allure of actual sports, I'm not going to say actual sports, but physical sports, right? The allure is that you go to the stadium, you see the players, right? You obviously, I've been to a football event, basketball, soccer, rugby even, right? There's a different aura, there's a different feel around that, right? When you are that close to the players. Funnily enough, I would argue football is probably actually better watched on a TV than in person.
I fully agree.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people won't say publicly. But
you're staring at the jumbotron 90% of the time if you're in the 200 or 300 level.
Exactly. But there is something about like where you go to a stadium, you buy the tickets, you sit in this, whether it's nosebleeds, front row, whatever, right? There's something about physically being there with the players, right? And I think that's unfortunately unimitatable when you do these kinds of, like you said, road shows, or you do these live in-person events. Like if you go with this notion that, hey, C9, 100 Thieves, go rent out a movie theater or go rent out a studio or something, right? Invite
a college gymnasium.
People. Yeah. So whatever, high school gymnasium, right? Go rent something out, find a business, see how much it'll cost. At the end of the day, how much different is it? You're still watching a screen. You're still, and yeah, you're doing it with your friends and stuff like that at a physical, like you said, at a physical area, but you're still watching a screen. There's no players there. There's nothing that. At the end of the day, you could have easily just mimicked and imitated this on a Discord call with a watch party, which is very popular. Like you said, co-streaming as well. A lot of people, when they watch co-streams and stuff, they'll do Discord calls and stuff like that. They'll do watch parties. What that's my pushback on it. So why do you think heavily that these will work? Why do you think that road shows, in-person events and stuff like that, like obviously you believe it's crucial and key to developing League of Legends in North America in regards to its esports scenes, but why do you think these will work? Why, with this pushback, everything I've given you, why, despite all of that, why?
I'll answer that technically with a question, but I will follow with my actual answer.
That's fine.
Why, you said it yourself, football is better to watch on TV. So why do you still go if you're going to sit in the 200 or 300 level?
You're a fan, right? At the end of the day, you're a fan.
I think it's more than that. I don't think it's just because you're a fan. I think it's because you want an experience to be around other people. And I think as much as we try to deny it as gamers, sitting on a Discord call, while it's nice, being able to sit there and talk to those same people in person means a lot more. Human connection is something you can't, it's so hard to explain. It's just something that when you're in the moment and enjoying it, it feels right. And I could sit here, it's the same thing, even taking it away from sports, going to pop or like concerts. I could sit here and listen to The Weeknd on Spotify with the best sound possible, arguably better than what I'm going to hear in the stadium. But you go in the stadium and you feel the vibration in your heart or in your chest just rattling. and you have people around you dancing and screaming. That's not something that a Discord call can replicate, because the second you take off the headphones, you're alone. No matter what you do, you're alone. And it's nice. It's good to feel comforted there. But when you can go to these stadiums and you can go to these events and be there with other people, that's just human connection that we all, I refuse. Some people might not want that. Sure. There's a lot of introverts in gaming. I believe a lot more want that than they put on.
And so you think the avenue has not been created for them? Like, these guys aren't going to do it themselves. No. They might not be the builders, right? Like, in your case, you're somebody that is like trying to do the stuff in New York, right? I've seen you where you've attended the shows and you've done, you've orchestrated watch parties and all that kind of stuff.
Bi-weekly here,
yeah. Yeah. And you are one of those builders, and you've obviously seen it on the ground. What? I guess we kind of got your opinion, but what is your opinion of the recent kind of, obviously stating that you could just go completely online? Do you think it'll kill LCS, right? You think it'll just kill LCS in North America?
No, I think LCS would arguably succeed more if you go online. If you adapt the Call of Duty model for the LCS, I think it would work better than our current format.
So fully online, but obviously, so there would be like online remote casters, there would be remote players. They would, I'd probably be playing in like a facility.
Casters still in one centralized location, in the same way that like for the NFL they have like a broadcast studio where like all the casters are, and like you're basically it's a hub that you then send it out to like the individual teams, etc. Yeah. You bring the casters in so that they can obviously be in one spot, because it shouldn't cost all that much to do that, given that you already have to produce the broadcast from that area. But I don't think the players playing in front of an empty LCS arena is any different than the players playing online. I don't. And I'd rather save the $50,000 that it costs to basically show the LCS to staff of the League of Legends teams and a few college kids that show up, and get 5 or 6 weekends a year where the LCS is in front of 1,000 to 2,000 people, and maybe finals, in like just finals being in a full arena in front of 10,000 in a major city. But beyond that, I think getting in front of those people is going to mean more, because as you said, if we're just going to sit here and watch in a Discord call anyways, and the majority of your audience, other than maybe 30 people in the arena, why does it matter?
I would even argue teams would be more inclined to do content and stuff, right? Because they would be saving money as well. They don't have to field people in LA, right? Which is notoriously very expensive to live in. They could just have facilities, or maybe not even facilities. Every individual player could play from the comfort of their own apartment, home. Obviously, teams would probably try to be like, hey, you're going to live here because this place has really good internet. We've set everything up.
Yeah.
They might handle that stuff, but it would still
and
be
you see
cheaper,
that
right?
you see that with Call of Duty. They all the players on game days are playing from specific studios with each other, because they are still emulating that tournament experience, because they know that once you get on LAN, you don't want to have that massive culture shock of playing from your bedroom and then going to playing in front of 2,000 people. Like, you still play in an environment that emulates that, just without the fans. So I don't see it dying. I mean, what are your thoughts though? I'm curious, because you seem a little bit more pessimistic that online would actually work.
Well, I'm the interviewer. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Moving to a completely online model, I feel like we would still have the same issues that we've always had with League intrinsically for now almost over a decade, right? How do you monetize the fans? I'm not a delusional person. I understand that 50, 60 people showing up to the LCS studio every, what used to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, now is like Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever.
God.
Who can even show up on those days, right? We're about roughly the same age. We're working individuals, right? Like, the people that are showing up are individuals that have the time, that have different work schedules, right? That maybe aren't, necessarily employed and stuff like that. So, but my issue is moving to completely online. Yeah, I agree. We would save a lot of money. Teams would save a lot of money, right? But I feel like I've been so burned consistently on the fact that what can I trust teams to do with the extra cash flow, right? What can I trust teams to do where it's like, all right, now you don't have to field your 10 squad, right? Your 5 amateur, 5 challenger players, your 5 LCS players in the same area at a $50 million facility, yada, 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 right? Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's say we save $50 million for these things. What are they going to do though?
Yeah.
Are they just like, I mean, like I can't trust
that goes
teams.
beyond.
Okay, go.
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
For me, I can't trust in teams given the fact that when we're in such like a quote unquote esports boom, economic boom for all these guys, that they went ahead and said, hey, we're going to build facilities. We're going to, pay players $1.1 million, right? $600,000. We're going to import Sword Art for $3 million, right? Like we're going to do all this stuff. When in reality, like you said, they could have done these endemic, or sorry, not endemic, but local, road shows. They could have put on events. They could have done this, right? How much would it have cost for TSM if instead of hiring Sword Art, they said, hey, we're going to rent out a studio in New York. We're going to rent out a bar, whatever. All the TSM fans that are there, go over there. Drinks are half off, whatever, right? Cut a deal. They just haven't done this. There has never been much weight around some of these quote unquote fan initiatives from teams that were like, I'm like, yeah, cool. We're going to save a lot of money, but they're just going to like pocket it. They're going to increase salaries. They're going to, for me, the trust is lost because I've been a fan for so long. For someone like you, obviously you've been a long fan too. 2016 is nothing to scoff at, 7 years, but like, I just have lost trust in esports organizations to correctly use the money that they're saving, where it feels like almost like Riot forcing some of these guys. They're saying like, hey, no, you've got to like, we're in this together, right? We're here's the umbilical cord. If we go online, if we do everything, most organizations, in my opinion, will be quick to cut it. And they'll just be like, all right, as soon as we can get out of LCS, as soon as we can get out of Riot Games ecosystem, let's bounce.
Good. That's fuck them.
Sure. No, like, in my opinion, yeah. If I don't want you, if you're not in it for the long haul, I don't want you, of course. But if that's the main
thing, though. That's the main thing that I want to drill down on is, regardless of whether it went to online or it stays in the model right now, you don't have that trust. Regardless, it makes no difference. So it's the majority of the fan base feels that way too, which is understandable, and I'm not pushing it back against that. But what I'm saying in general is, with any relationship in life, can you truly grow if there's no trust? No. So if that's the case, then we're all just waiting in impending death, and it's going to happen no matter what. And there's nothing you can do to save it. And it's all gone. If you don't have faith in Riot, if you don't have faith in the teams to deliver the best product that we can and make the right decisions to grow this esport, then what are we even doing? Just fold it up and call it good. Walk away.
My notion is that esports for a lot of companies are a marketing tool for their game, right? Like it's not, we want to do esports because we care about the esports. We care about esports. We care about the competitive scene, blah, 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 blah. It's, we do this so that we can churn over more players so that they can come into our game. Because now if you see, like you said, Scump, or if you see Double Lift, if you see all these people, these personalities, oh, I want to play League. I want the Vayne skin that he uses, or I want the T1 Faker skin, right? Whichever one he has. I want this skin. I want this, and this. Because I think the biggest thing that nobody says is that esports for Riot, in my opinion, doesn't make them money. It's the skins. It's that kind of monetization, right? They're hard, in my opinion.
But esports does lead to the skin sales.
But do you think, I would think Riot would be completely fine. This is probably like a more existential thing.
Oh, this is a full capitalist issue.
Yeah. If you give Riot the option to say, hey, skin sales will stay the same, and you can cut your esports division completely, I think they would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I think they would do it in a heartbeat.
Agree.
And I think if that is the notion that we run on, then why would teams be invested in esports? Why should we care about LCS when there was a a buy-in for LCS, by the way, 20 million, 10 million, whatever. Whereas now Valorant, I believe Riot was handing out spots, and even in some cases,
Yeah.
I don't think they were paying teams. I could be mistaken on that one.
There was no buy-in whatsoever. There's a minimum spend requirement for marketing and other promotion. Basically, you have to be pulling your weight, and if you're not pulling your weight, Riot will strip it from you. As Riot's basically the NWL governing body.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole completely another. That's another can of worms, right? Having like a governing body over the ecosystem as a whole. That's another. I could talk about that for hours, but in regards to you, like you said, if we're dying anyways, or if we're gonna be awaiting this impending doom, switching to online and stuff, where do you see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because right now, I would argue everybody's arguing it's an esports winter. We're dying. I would say in a funny way, I'm optimistic that maybe there's a chance where Riot Games and esports organizations, let's say we lose a lot of money. Let's say, League of Legends has to start from square one. I think that's a golden opportunity to kind of build it the way that we should have in the beginning, rather than trying to revive what it once was, right? My goal isn't $500,000 salaries, $1 million salaries. Let's go grassroots. Let's not let it die, but let's get it to a point where now we have to endemically grow this thing the right way. That's my opinion. I think they have a golden opportunity that once everything shakes out, once all the decisions are made, once teams, like you said, fuck them, leave them out. If they don't want to be in it, they don't want to be it. We get people that do want to be in it. I think starting from square one is actually a blessing in disguise, let's say.
Yeah. My prediction for this, I don't think League of Legends will ever, like, people trying to recapture the glory days of like, oh, League had this viewership base, like, I don't know if we're ever going to get back there. But all I know is we can make a sustainable product out of 100,000 people consistently watching. And I think as hard as this is going to be to hear for a lot of people, I truly do think we are consolidating down to the VCT model at some point. Riot is waiting for, even though they said they weren't, I think ultimately the smart play would be when these teams look to sell and nobody eventually buys in the spots and they let it dwindle down to that point, Riot buys back ownership, because legally whoever owns the spot has a right. It's very complicated in that regard. But if Riot can get the entire ecosystem down to at most 50 teams, and most importantly, 4 regions, everything consolidates down to Korea, China, Europe, and the Americas. And even Europe, you could expand to be more than that if you want. But like OS feeds into other regions. But I think you just consolidate it down to 4. And then you have however many teams you want in there. Then I think that's a little bit more sustainable, on top of the promise that Riot already said. They're developing a platform that you could watch esports through that will allow them to monetize better. So what that means, at least in my mind and how I'm interpreting it, is I watch Faker play on this specific LeBlanc skin. My account is already tied to the platform. I can simply click a button and buy it. From an accounting point of view, that revenue was directly generated because of esports. Therefore, you can have a collective bargaining agreement, and a portion of those sales that are generated on all skins, not just esports skins, all skins, goes towards the esports revenue pool that they then distribute to teams and also funds the league itself. That is a way to monetize. That, as of right now, is something that Riot has clearly tried to avoid for an extended period of time. Because why would they want to do it? Yeah.
Valorant does it with the gun skins, right?
Yeah.
And
well, they do it with the team. They do it with the team gun skins, but they don't do it with all skins. Imagine a world where on Tarek's stream, if somebody buys a $40 Valorant skin bundle that has nothing to do with esports, but it's because of esports, technically that's esports revenue. And that should be given a portion of that to the Valorant Champion Store, which is then distributed to the teams beyond just the direct skin sales, which will then have a higher portion, like say
A share,
50% of those skin sales go to the teams affiliated with them, and then 30% of skin sales that are from esports directed sites, whether it's like Tarek watch parties, the Valorant like watch party system, whatever it
co-streams,
is.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
I will dominate co-streams. They buy the grungy new, or I don't even know what it's
Yeah.
called anymore.
Like that's esports revenue. And Riot has held off on that clearly because that impacts your bottom line. That is a direct hit to Riot's net income that shareholders are not going to like. Shareholders are going to want Riot and Tencent to be as profitable as humanly possible, and that does not bode well for esports. But if you eventually create these systems that force them into doing it and force you to recognize the revenue that is actually being driven by esports, we can actually put a dollar amount on our heads. And we can say, okay, this is now the budget that we're working with. That is a system that we can actually monetize correctly going forward and make into something that is sustainable long term.
I think that's a pretty sound model, in my opinion. I mean, I have no arguments there, right? And I think, like you said, we are trending towards that kind of area where it's like Riot will finally just kind of give up on like we aren't the NFL, we aren't the NBA. Nobody wants to actually buy into our market. It's better if we try to grow our own market, right? And it's funny. Somebody said, I interviewed on the last episode, pretty much said that like League of Legends is the first child where they like make the mistakes, they do everything, and then Valorant as the second child, that's where he turns out to be really, really good, and the they're setting the example, the model, right? They learned all their mistakes. I think there is a way, unlike I guess children in that aspect, you can't kind of rewind the clock and go, hey, we messed up, let's try it again. With League, you can try it again, you can run it back. Final question, because we are ticking around that hour mark. It's going to be completely different from everything. Obviously, your background is pretty extensive, right? When it comes to your work thing, you're a financial analyst, senior financial analyst, I believe, for Disney. You've worked for Viacom. You've done all this stuff. Why have you particularly not tried to parlay that into what I say esports adjacent role, right? Why haven't you? All right, I've got the credentials. I've got the chops. I've worked for some big companies. Let me be an FA. Let me be an FP&A. Let me be a senior FP or senior financial analyst for 100 Thieves, for Team Liquid, for this and that. Is it for you personally? What is the reason? Or have you tried and they don't want you? If that is the case, which I would find very, very hard to believe.
This is a very, very tricky topic to talk about. One, because there are certain things that I obviously cannot say due to not wanting to make my current employer upset in any regards. But I will say this. In 2018, I had a conversation with Chris Chaney, who was the CEO of Optic at the time. He asked me if I'd be interested in any roles in Optic, which, for those that don't know the history of Optic, that was a very torn decision for me because it was not Hector's Optic. It was the Infinite era of Optic, which is as a fan, I knew what I would be getting into if I did it. But more importantly, I would have to give up a life here in New York City. My wife is aspiring for Broadway, and that is what truly makes her happy in life. If I took this opportunity to go down to Texas for what probably would have been fairly minimal salary, the money wouldn't be the problem because I'd make it work one way or another.
Like everybody
I'd be
does.
giving up. Yeah, I'd be giving up on a promise that I have to her and I have to me. And I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a part of me that does somewhat want to go out to LA and give it a try. But I'm not willing to do that to my family here, to everything that I have going on here. And it's a tough position to be in, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's something that I struggle with consistently because it's like, part of the reason why I've branded myself around New York City so heavily is knowing that I'm going to be here for the long run and knowing that I have the ability to tie myself in, but also knowing that esports is not in New York City. And I have to push hard to try and get a lot of stuff out here. And remote work might make the opportunity to work for these orgs later down the line a possibility. But realistically, until something comes to New York City, I will not work in esports. It's a very difficult pill for me to swallow, but it's one that I've had to come to terms with. And it's just the truth of the matter. It's part of the reason also why I push content as hard as
Yeah.
I do, because I think that's a route that can go anywhere.
You can do it anywhere.
But yeah. And I don't know what a future in content creation would look like. I fight against the label of being a content creator as like my label. Like this is just a passion project on the side because I make almost no money from it. There have been 2 events that I have been paid for. But beyond that, like I don't earn income from this. It's pure passion.
With the hours you put into it, right? Like you can, I will say this, you can stray away from the title content creator because you don't make any monetary gains, but I don't think you can actually shy away even from an outside perspective, right? I mean, I'm a content creator, quote unquote, in that aspect. So I know how many hours you're putting in, but to everybody else, they know you're putting in, like you do, your 9 to 5, and then you got your, I hate this fucking saying, the 5 to 9, right? You've got your 9 to 5.
Oh, it was beyond that. I mean,
but it's not a 5 to 9 for you. It's a 5 to 11, 5 to 12. It's a, I got to get all this done. Even on vacation, I am scheduling content. I'm doing this. I'm finding windows within my 9 to 5, on my lunch, on my breaks to make content. This is not a 9 to 5. So like, how can you shy away from the content creator moniker or label when everything you do in your free time is content?
As unfortunate as this is to say, money means everything in this world. And you can call yourself a content creator, but if you're not making any money from it or not doing anything sustainable, then it truly is just a passion project. You can label it whatever you want. You can call it a content creator, fine. But content creator in the terms that we all are thinking about, the David Dobrik's, the Ludwigs, the Cutie Cinderellas, their main source of income is content creation.
Yes.
And people can call me whatever they want. They can add whatever labels they want in. Unless I hit that mark, I don't consider myself that. It doesn't matter if I'm putting in 40 hours a week extra on top of my 40-hour-a-week job. Until I hit that point, I will never consider myself that. I can't.
Well, I think that's a pretty good end to this episode. David, I really appreciate it, man. Taking time out of your day. I know it's 10:30 for you right now, I believe.
Oh, I'm not going to bed till 1:30. I'm fine. We're
there
good.
You go.
Thank you so much for having me on. These conversations are honestly some of my favorites to have.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much again, guys. Everybody, his content, everything will be in the description box below. The Twitter, the YouTube, the Twitch, whatever, any content he's on, any sort of social media platform, I will do my best to link it. Obviously, his channel is the host of the Crossover podcast as well, so you can check that out when his next episode uploads. But again, David, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me on.